If you and I have a conversation, we can talk about stuff. I can probably leave 30% of the exact details out because you probably already know. We already have that because we've been exposed to it. Whereas from a chat GPT or from an AI standpoint, you have to consider that it's a toddler. It doesn't know anything. So whatever you want to do, you have to give it an instruction, a prompt that basically fills in all of the gaps so that it can come back and give you an answer. And when you do that, the answers are spectacular. The things that you can get resolved for that.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. Today's guest, Dimitri in Palm Beach, Florida, is an investor agent with 20 years of experience, and he's heavy into using tech and AI. Dimitri, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. So I'm looking forward to this being a great experience.
Absolutely. Great to have you on here, Dimitri. We can talk so much about tech and AI, and we'll get to that. But I always like to start this show by asking guests how they got started in real estate.
Okay. So, I started off actually in technology. And actually, it started off as a car mechanic. My dad had a gas station and, real young, I was a car mechanic. And then my brother-in-law, I was looking at him and he was always coming home earlier than I was. He was making more money than I was, and he was clean. So I thought, the heck? So he's a lead engineer for a telephone company. And I said, you know what? Let me pull the nepotism card. Hey, Jerry, give me a job. So he did. He got me a job. I had to start at the bottom, but I learned a lot. It was all in technology. And we went from electromechanical to programmable phone systems, which got me into learning how to program and got me all into the technical side of that. And then for almost, I don't know, probably 20 years, really, from that point, I had technology companies, an internet company, a software development company, did my own internet interconnect company for phone systems, did all of those things. And then it came along a point where I was like, all right, I've had enough. I was working way too much. And I decided to sell it all. And I did. I sold it all. I took a year and a half, 2 years off. I traveled around the country and I learned everything I could about real estate investing. I went to every guru that I could find. I actually think I spent about $100,000 in learning. And I learned every aspect, not just, pretty houses, ugly houses, wealthy houses, doing notes, doing tax deeds. It didn't really matter whether it was wholesale, a mobile home park. It didn't really matter. I wanted to learn how to do it. Right. There's this thing on it. And I did pretty well. And then 2008, 2009 came along. I had a lot of rental houses and I was highly leveraged because there were times I'd go to the bank to buy a house and I bought the house. I had it under contract and I'm going to the bank to close. I've already got a renter in the house and the bank is giving me $30,000 to $60,000 cash to buy the house or giving me money back. So I've already got a renter. I'm making money and I'm making all this. Well, that was a time when it was wild, wild west on mortgages, right?
That's right.
And the wild, wild west got shot down.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
And I also went bankrupt. So that was the thing. I went from a chapter, from being a millionaire to being chapter 7 broke. And in 3 months time,
No one was buying those homes. Yeah.
no was buying. People, most of my renters lost their jobs. They weren't paying. So I was like just bleeding cash, and it just went poof out of the way. So, and I lived in Virginia. That's where I was at. And so it was getting to be wintertime, and I said, well, damn, now I'm basically homeless because all my houses, even the one I lived in, all gone. So I got in my van because I thought, well, I feel like I'm a little smarter than most. And the one thing that was obvious to me is that winters in Virginia, being homeless was not a place to be. So I came to
No.
Florida.
Let's pick a warmer climate, right?
Yes, I came to West Palm, had to, pull my bootstraps up and get started over. So I did that, and I started buying some properties here, got some rental properties. Um, and it took a while to get mentally ready to get over all of that and get started. But that's how I got, that's my journey into real estate and into where I am now. And then I got after being in Florida for several years, I decided, you know what? Let me get my real estate license, even though that was 100% opposite of what pretty much
Yeah,
every
right.
investor guru says, right? You don't need your license. You shouldn't get your license. You should. Well, I think every investor should have their license. There's a bunch of reasons why. But, I think it also brings, um, well, one, for me, it certainly brought a different viewpoint on properties. And it put another responsibility on me because as a realtor, we have a fiduciary responsibility. The person we're dealing with who's selling their house, whether they're in trouble with their house, they're facing a mortgage, whatever it is, our job isn't to make money off of them. Our job is to help them make money.
That's right.
And that's really what our job is as a realtor. And, I have found that I can make my money, I can follow my fiduciary responsibility and still buy investment properties at a great deal. So that's kind of like my
That's how
journey
you.
part of where we got.
Right, right. When we talk about being an investor agent, this is a segment of real estate that has even a lot of maybe misunderstanding from both people that are in the community and then outside, because I consider myself an investor friendly agent. I haven't invested yet. That's on the
Right.
the to-do list in
Right.
2026 for me, Dimitri. But when we talk about, any real estate agent, any retail agent, a lot of people would say, oh, well, they must work with a lot of investors because there's people that are buying homes, and maybe investors buy more properties than the typical person. But most realtors are working in that retail buyer, first time home buyer, the majority of them. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to stick around for forever. They could be gone in a year or 2 years, but they're working with folks. They're getting their experience with folks who are either looking at buying a property for relocating for themselves. Maybe that's their first time home buying experience. And they're typically not in the world of the investors. It's just a different lingo.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And from an investing part, I kind of look at it that let's just look at it, 3 groups of people that I could say are investors. There's the group that don't know they should be an investor, and they should be. And we have an opportunity to show them why. And then there's a group that's been to some class, they looked at some HGTV show that something happened and they thought, well, gosh, I should do that. And they really don't know anything. And there's a whole lot of those people, and they're kind of frustrating and are going to go nowhere. They're our tire kicker version of investors. And then there's the kind of the elite group. These are investors who they're buying several houses, usually several houses a month, that they're doing. And it kind of depends on what their model is. Are they buying them for rentals? Are they buying them for fix and flips? Why are they buying them? So that kind of depends on how many they're going to do from there. Uh, If you luck in and you get a hedge fund, you might be doing 5, 10, 15 houses a month with a hedge fund because they're just buying them. And they're supplementing. The house represents the stock. The difference is if I buy stock, I have no way of adding value or guaranteeing that there's ever any value to that stock. Whereas
Right,
if I
right.
have a house, I actually have multiple values. And this is where most people don't realize from an investing standpoint, it's not just about buying the house and how cheap can you get it. Let's take an example. You get a high income producer, and I say high income, let's say 150, $250,000 income producer, right? They're paying a decent amount in taxes. If they had an investment house, that investment house can be depreciated. That depreciation will offset a lot of their taxes. You can 2 or 3 houses, and they're pretty much letting their taxes that they would have paid to the IRS pay for those houses. So they're getting income, not direct, but indirect income because they've saved on taxes, and they're potentially getting direct income because they're cash flowing off the house. Sometimes it's $100 a month, sometimes it's $1,000 a month.
That's
Just
right.
kind of depends, right? Um, and
If you're looking for consistent, high quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
And then the next piece is if they had enough money in their 401k or wherever, they could have used that to buy that rental house. And now instead of paying a mortgage company 6, 7, or even investment company,
Right.
investment mortgages 8%, well, they're paying that 8% to themselves because they're still paying that money back as a mortgage. They let the 401k, own it, lease it to an LLC, for instance, that does the management of it. There's a lot of mechanics to make that happen, but they can be basically paying money to themselves from that investment. So they've made money by reducing their taxes. They made money if they did the purchase of it in their 401k, and they're paying the lease back on that mortgage on that, and cash flowing on the difference of the rent and what their costs are. The fourth place that they're making money, which is kind of like it's an invisible place, but is appreciation. Every 10 years, the value of that house pretty much doubles. So if I bought the house for 200 grand, 10 years from now, it should be 400 grand. It's not necessarily true. It might be only 300 grand, but that's still a huge appreciation over that. And you probably weren't going to get that in from a guarantee standpoint ever in stocks. So that's where people don't really understand, and they need to delve into why
Yeah.
would I do investing, right?
When we talk about not just the appreciation, not just the cash flow, but also some of the tax strategy that comes into play. Also, the ability to do this with, not on your own. So a lot of people look at this and say, well, yeah, this is going to be a huge investment on my part. And also, I don't necessarily know about this. There's tons of people, whether you go a more formalized route, like a syndication or a fund, or if you are just partnering, or I shouldn't say just, but are partnering with someone who may have more experience than you. There's lots of mentorship opportunities for younger investors or newer investors to get in. And then not only that, as a business, every time that you buying a investment property, that property is like a business. You could actually declare each individual property, and a lot of people do this, as its own business entity. And so there's all these ways where real estate can have not just, one or even two benefits, but it could connect you with someone who could be a partner of yours in business for years to come. It could be a tax mitigator, and on top of that, produce cash flow. And sometimes people are only thinking about like one leg of that stool.
Absolutely. Well, and this is kind of, I'm going to leverage that part with the fact of being a realtor. So as a realtor, let's take an example. So not too long ago, I worked with a client moving from Texas to Florida. They wanted to buy a house down in Weston, and those houses are $2 million. And in talking to them, I mean, very wealthy person, access to a lot of money, right? So I've got a good relationship with them. I got them a house. Well, one of the things we got to talking about was investing. He's like, look, if you ever need a money partner, So we get access to people, to things because we're a realtor that we wouldn't have gotten as just an investor because we're doing these relationships. And then when I find an opportunity, I can say, hey, I got this opportunity. Would you want to join me? Kind of like what you were talking about in the syndication. And the other part of that is most people, let's just take rentals. The very first thing I think I hear 99% of the time, it's always like, well, I don't want my tenant calling me at midnight about a toilet overflowing, right? And
That's the
that's the
headache.
dream. You know how often that happens? In 20 years, it's happened to me 3 times. I think I can deal with that. I think I can deal with that.
That level of
But
headache. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'll tell you just straight up. Yes, it happens 3 times in 20 years. That's what I got. So, but here's the other part of that. You could be almost 100% hands off because there's plenty of property management companies that will do everything, A to Z. You're buying a property. Here's my property management company. They're going to get it rented. They're going to keep it rented. They're going to take care of every issue that's happening. They're going to keep you informed. You're going to be able to make decisions and say, well, yeah, okay, so such and such needs to replace. Great, go handle that. You know what it's going to cost. All of those things can be done very affordably. Most of them are somewhere between 8 and 10% of the rent every month. Very affordable. You can't hire an employee obviously to do that, and your time is probably worth much more than that. In getting it done. So you just let that be managed. The other part about understanding to do that, well, that opens it up because most people, when they think about investing, they think about a house in their neighborhood, a house around the corner because they want it close and convenient. Reality is, look, I live in Florida and houses here are 4, 6, $800,000. But I can go to Detroit and buy a $50,000 house and I can cash flow on that. I can depreciate. There's a lot there. All I need to do is understand that I don't have to be the one doing it. And I just need to understand what are the pieces and what are the services, and people and companies that I leverage to get that done. And I use Detroit as one, but there's places all over this
There's tons of
country that
markets.
that you can buy an under $100,000 house and cash flow.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
There's actually been this trend that I've seen, Dimitri, and I shouldn't say trend because it's probably been happening for a while, people moving to Florida, but specifically real estate people operating out of Florida, even if they have a business. You mentioned in Detroit. I know someone specifically who's doing that. And you've got the beautiful weather down there, but you also seem to have this kind of focal point of real estate operators and businesses, whether they're doing business predominantly in Florida or South Florida or throughout the country, and they're choosing that as their headquarters, if you will. It
Yeah.
does seem to be that there's a lot of real estate minded people in Florida, even as you're seeing maybe some migration out of South Florida. You're still seeing a lot of real estate operators choose to spend large portions of their time in South Florida.
Two big reasons for that. Two big reasons. One, um, especially South Florida, this is where people come to die. It's sad to say that, and you look at me with my gray beard, you think about where I'm at, but yeah, Florida is the place where most people come to retire. This is our bones. We got so many opportunities here because there are quite a few people that passed away, and now they've got probate situations and all that stuff. But that's one reason why people migrate to Florida a lot. This is like it's their last stop. They're done. They finished out their life. They're ready to retire. They want to go to someplace warm, easy, enjoy the climate and the good life as they see advertised for Florida. And they spent vacations here. And just like you love Fort Lauderdale, they went, oh, I really love it. And so they think they want to live here. That's one. The second reason that it's a lot of times it's real estate people, we're one of the few industries that has that easy ability to do referrals, right? So I identify a client in such and such place and I don't have to service them. I can call up an agent in that area, especially if it's in my brokerage, like I'm at EXP. I can go to any EXP anywhere in the world, any agent in EXP throughout the world, give them a referral, and I'll make 10, 20, 30, sometimes 40% as a referral fee on the commission that they got because of the deal that I brought them. So I think those two things make it like why you see a lot of that in Florida. And
Yeah,
and we saw certainly during the COVID time a huge influx of people who could work from home now. Whether they were software developers, HR people. A lot of times they were doing so many things remote. Have brought
that's right.
people here too because they're relocating. Big businesses, especially investment firms, said, you know what, we're going to get out of New York, we're going to get out of Chicago, we're going to go to Palm Beach, let our people be there. That just seems to be one of those headquarters. Who knows? We
I
might.
had a music teacher who was also an investor, a guest on this show recently, who was
Right.
doing music lessons by Zoom. I said, "How
Yeah.
do you do that?" And she said,
Yeah.
"Well, there's a delay, but we would do them." And I said, "Well, that's interesting." So they'll do just about anything by Zoom at this point.
If it's something that I can teach you through example, we can do it via, you know, uh, let's call it remote. We can do it through video. Even medicine has gone to telemedicine, right? So if I don't have to physically touch you to identify something, if I can ask you questions, I can look at you, I can see things that I can get it done. We can do it remotely. I think where the biggest thing has come is on two sides. It's on the employer side of being comfortable with the fact that people are actually working. Because they're like, well, it's all based on I want 8 hours, as opposed to productivity. And that's probably
Yeah,
where this whole thing has happened in our economy. In the cases is focus has been on time and not on productivity. If I can get done in 4 hours, what you're hoping that I got done in 8 hours, what does it matter that it took me 4 or 8? What mattered is, did my productivity produce the result that you wanted, that you were willing to pay me my salary for?
that's
That's
it.
it. It's really it's that simple. So I think that is the one focus. And then the second thing is from the employee standpoint, um, having um, the focus and the ability to not be distracted. Hey, I'm working from home. Well, I forgot. I need to go run a load of laundry. Well, no, you really do your load of just because it's convenient and you got to get it done. That gets done after hours, right?
You got to
Do your
partition it.
do your job right. You got to be able to focus on that. And I see a lot of people struggle with that. Like my dog every so often jumps up on me and says, "Hey, hey, hey, I want to go out, pay attention, throw the ball, do something." And sometimes I have to tell her, "Listen, I just did that an hour ago. You got to wait another 2 hours."
Yeah, we're working from
Like,
home. That there's
right,
a
I'm
working.
working, I'm doing stuff. So
I
yeah,
want to I want to pivot, Dimitri, and ask you about
okay,
the AI that you're incorporating in
okay.
your business. So, of course, everyone right now, whether you want to or whether you don't want to, you're coming across AI, even if it's just someone else showing you how to do something in AI. How are you incorporating it in your business?
So I want to set the stage on AI first because, like you said, we are being bombarded at AI. We got to have AI. If you don't have AI, you're going to get behind. Well, here's the thing: AI requires basically a focus to it that is smart. And because if you put garbage into it, it's going to give you garbage out, right? So we can use ChatGPT, and I think, and this certainly happened for me, and I consider myself a pretty good communicator. But in my first use, several months of using ChatGPT, I was doing simple prompts, and in things, even as I expanded it, I found that I was leaving things out because I would consider them to just be normal things that people would understand. If you and I have a conversation, we can talk about stuff. I can probably leave 30% of the exact details out because you probably already know. We already have that because we've been exposed to it. Whereas from a chat GPT or from an AI standpoint, you have to consider that it's a toddler. It doesn't know anything. So whatever you want to do, you have to give it an instruction, a prompt that basically fills in all of the gaps so that it can come back and give you an answer. And when you do that, the answers are spectacular. The things that you can get resolved for that. Now, my primary piece for AI and using it, one is pretty much everything that I write, I throw through ChatGPT and say, okay, here's what I wrote. Here was the intention of this. Here's the audience that I'm trying to reach with this. What improvements would you give me, or did I hit the marker? And then we'll come back with here's suggestions. Here's how I would rewrite it. And I've always found that it's improved because I'm somewhat of a very direct, maybe even harsh sometimes in things that I communicate, whereas it comes back much softer and more flowery. It is so
Tone
it's
this down for me, chat.
right. Yeah, it's received better, right? And especially if I'm pissed off at you and I'm going to write something, man, ChatGPT will save me every time on that. So that's one thing to think about it. Where AI really, like in my specific business, besides the writing part, I use it in, my marketing emails. What am I going to do? How am I going to send it out? Whether it's an email or a text or a phone call, I utilize that where it helps me have campaigns that are much more on target and value given to people, as opposed to just saying, hey, I'm a realtor. I just want to remind you, I'm a realtor. If you're thinking about buying or selling a house, let me do this. Thinking about investing in the house, be back in touch with me. No, it's more about adding value. This is what I want to add to you, where it will give me a bunch of ideas, which is, yeah, have I gone to a restaurant lately? Have I gone to how was the car repair that I got last done? Share those experiences, right? And be able to put that out there. So I'm now adding value to my community, in my local community. The second is in my productivity. I have over 100,000 contacts in my database that I routinely stay in touch with, right? And part of that is people are like, well, how do you have so many? I have a team. I got 24 agents that I'm generating, this communication, and I take on that primary role. So by doing that and using a conversational AI bot, it will talk to the emails, to the text, to DMs on Facebook, Instagram. Working on a Facebook one, not Facebook, YouTube one, but it will carry on that conversation and have its goals of what it's supposed to do. And the biggest thing is providing value, making sure their questions are answered, and if needed, booking a time for an agent to follow back up with them to finish the job and get it done. The second area in that is phone calls. So I don't take an incoming call. That incoming call comes to my AI. So most people would use, they have a voicemail IVR. Hey, have you reached us? If you're calling about billing, press 1. If you need to get our fax and email, right, all that stuff. So an IVR. So I see that a lot of communication and building of these bots that are answering phone calls are somewhat glorified IVR systems. They're not really what I would call conversational bots, where you can ask me anything. Now, it probably took me 8 months to build a knowledge base that actually allowed the bot to have a full conversation with somebody and pretty much present everything I would present as a realtor. I can answer buyer questions, investor questions, seller questions, pretty much anything. In fact, actually, I'm just finishing up one where realtors calling back to me to find out whether they want to work with me in my service. We'll be able to ask all their questions and get that done. And then having the ability for the bot to recognize if somebody's being frustrated, that to be able to offer, hey, look, I can transfer you over to Dimitri or, to a human, right? And then who am I going to transfer to? And am I going to offer that transfer during business hours or all the time? Because you got to look at it at that. And then you also keep people on the rails, basically, so that if they get, and I've gotten thousands of incoming calls every so often. I get somebody, especially if I got a female voice on my bot. Hey, what are you wearing today? And I go, well, that's not on the rails. Let's get them back. Hey, I appreciate your question, but let's talk about more what's on topic. And I actually have the bot say that to people. It's like, no, let's keep you on the rails.
Yeah.
So it is. Those are the things when you look at it, you really got to delve in a lot about, because you're designing a digital human in essence. That's what you're designing, a persona that is you, but as a digital version. And it takes effort. And if you're not going to put that effort, and when you look at all the, what I'll say, the gurus that are out there, all the people that are doing their exam, let me show you how easy this is. Let me do this. All you got to do is put this link in and it's going to learn it and your bot's going to, no, that's a good start. But the end result is crap. And the reason for that is that the bot is going to go, especially if you put a URL to your website, and it goes out to your website and reads it. Well, one thing, your website probably doesn't have all the information about that you want to share. And secondly, it may not be in a format that when the bot reads it, that it understands it 100% and it can't put it into it. Give you some examples. I've had some very weird answers to questions that I thought would have been answered easily off the website, but the
Sure.
bot didn't
Sure.
quite get it. And I've even had the bot say, "Hey, look, you want me to go find a realtor to help you?" And I'm like, "Hey, bot, you're supposed to be my buddy. Why are you offering some realtor and not me?"
What in the world? How do you
Yeah,
fix that? You change the prompt to say whenever you're thinking about referring, you automatically go to me?
go to me. It's actually becomes so in a in your AI bot, especially in the conversationals, there's for the most part two parts, and the first is the prompting and rules. So this is, hey, Mr. Bot, this is kind of the prompting that I want you to go through, and here's the rules that I want you to follow in doing all that. And when you ask something that you didn't quite find a clear path of what to do here, run over here to the knowledge base and find it. The knowledge base is basically a big old flat file. You've got some additional information to them, instructions, but for the most part, it's a question. Here's the question somebody could ask. Here's the answer that you would give. Now, a good instruction in the bot is that you don't tell the bot they have to answer that that specific question with that specific answer. Basically, it's learned knowledge, and it's like if the question has it, if whatever they've asked has an inference to that question that matches the inference of this question, here's valuable information for you to know. Sometimes the bot gives you all of it. Sometimes the bot says there's three things in my knowledge base that in inference wise could all match that question. And I have three sets. So it'll take all of that as knowledge and it'll give a nice answer. So those are the things that you put through, and it takes a fair amount of learning and actually experimenting, calling your bot and talking to it. Um,
Yeah.
recently, I my bot pissed me off, and what I was trying to do was this. I told the bot, look, if in my database I already know the person's email address, I want you to confirm it. And when you confirm it, I don't want you to say the email address. I actually want you to spell it back letter by letter to the person. And I tried a bunch of different things and it just wasn't doing it. So I said, hey, look, I know I told you in your, now this, I'm literally talking to the bot. I know I told you in the instructions, you're supposed to do this letter by letter, not just say it. And it came back and he says, oh, you know what? You're right. That is in my instruction. I'm sorry. I'll do it better next time. I said, all right, great. I'm going to hang up and try you again. So I call it back. Same thing. Look, you told me you would do. I know. I don't know why I did it wrong that time, but I will do it better next time. I promise. Okay. I call it back. It says, same thing. Oh, look, listen, this is three times. You keep promising me. Apparently, you're lying to me. I didn't know you had the ability to lie to me, but this is what I need to know from you. Exactly. I need you to tell me exactly what is the prompt that I need to put in your instructions so that the next time I call you, you do specifically what I've asked. And it says, oh, okay. Well, if you put the prompt as this, and it told me what the prompt is, I put it in like that. It worked.
Believable. It just
It
said,
is.
"Hey, you wanna change me, this is what you gotta." We need all things to be this
That's
transparent, you know?
that transparent. So Um, I'll tell you a couple other places that I'm using the bots, and this is I don't use this widespread, but I will be using it widespread, and it's just some ideas for people that are looking at this. Um, I use it for role play. So I'll call the bot and I'll say, hey, look, I need to role play. Um, I want you to, I'm going to be a buyer calling in and I want you to role play with me so I can understand how you were going to interact with the buyer. And they say, okay, I'll do that. I say, great. Let's start right from the top, from the hello part. He says, okay, hello, this is, and he does what is prompt. And then I'll role play and it'll go through the whole thing. So you can utilize the bot. And this is while I'm doing it because I want to understand the bot. But the other part is I have a new agent or I have an agent, like I have a friend. She should have been she could be a great agent, but her problem is she would never role play with anybody because she was too embarrassed of messing up in front of a person.
Yeah,
And when
in the
I
role
did this, I thought about this and I went, oh, isn't this a great solution? I can actually have a bot that I'm using to answer calls anyway, but dual purpose it for role play for agents that are shy. And the best part about it is, which I don't need to tell them this, but I get both a written transcript and a recording of what they said so I can improve them too. But the bot will walk through and give them the ability to practice that before they go on calls.
Super
So
helpful. I mean, when we hit on a couple things there. First, we hit on the ability for AI to improve itself, even with some maybe feedback from us. We also we didn't mention too much of this, but the voice technology, even from where it was like 9 months ago, is completely different. I mean,
yeah,
9 months ago, you would get a call, or you would maybe look at some things that would take inbound calls, and it was real clunky. Right now, maybe the only issue that I've seen is there might be some delay while it might be thinking, but it sounds realistic to the point where, calls can get off the rails because they might think it's a real person on the other
right,
line. Like, oh, this
right,
person's being friendly. But then also, too, the ability for you to, train newer agents. And this can apply to so many aspects of real estate, on and off market acquisitions, realtors versus, wholesalers or folks that may be
right.
doing more off market type
Absolutely.
deals. And the where we're at right now is really interesting because now it's like, okay, it's thinking at the level and at the speed with basically what that we're thinking at. It's communicating with us. You can even have it speak multiple languages and like coach you through those languages
Right,
with local dialects, right?
right.
So it's doing things right now that we thought probably 9 months ago, it's not going to be there this year, maybe next year. Well, here it is at the end of 2025, and we're already there.
We're here. Yeah, I think we're here, and there's just besides how I'm using it, I look at so many things that um, it is able to be used. And one of the well, I'll say I was on a webinar yesterday, and one of the things they were talking about was like they asked the audience this. They said, "How many of you in the last 6 months have the questions that you had? Did you Google that question, or did you ask an AI?" And the majority of the people said, "Oh, I asked AI." Well, now
Question. Yeah.
to come up with the answer. Well, now here's the interesting part about this, and this is what people probably don't understand and realize, and that is when you create your website, you do SEO, and SEO is a mechanism that in the back end, the search engines find all of your content, they understand what it's about. So when somebody Googles a question, it knows whether your website matches that question, and you show up in the results. Right? Well, no different for the chatbots. AI it's called AEO. So you have SEO and you have AEO. AEO, if your website is configured with AEO, when somebody asks ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini or something like that about it, it's going to look to see what websites match its searches. So you have a higher chance of showing up and actually beating some of the big boys because you got ahead of it. You got there first. You put that information there. So
Yeah,
just a
your
little
like
tidbit out
bookmark
there.
in there in the system.
Right.
Um, very, very, interesting to talk about some of this cutting. It almost seems like we're looking into the future that we could think about, hey, I need a tool that's going to be able to craft my emails, book my calendar, take my inbound calls, do text messages for me. And by the way, speak three languages, Spanish, English, and Portuguese. And it'll do
Right.
all those things like maybe right now or tomorrow.
It it will you know what? I think I can do all those things right now, and there are some companies. So when we think about AI, we have the AI bots that we have. So you have an NLM, right? Natural language model. So the natural language model is kind of the engine for the chatbot itself, and then it's what is the data that language model is built on, and then your interface to that, so it interfaces that data. Um, Most of them are built on most of the things we're going to see that are out there that the general public has got access to is a pretty much similar or same natural language model. What is and that is very general in what its aspect is. But there is nothing stopping companies and industries from being able to do their own custom. So let's just say Ford Motor Products says, you know what? I need to have something specific so that all mechanics across the country, they've got a question on a particular car, whatever, they literally could call in. So they have all the details, everything about the car. They could literally call into a private piece, ask a question about, I'm having this certain issue, and the AI would go through all that proprietary data and tell them how to solve it.
Yeah, so now it's
That
specific
is,
to them.
yeah, that right. It's specific to them. So that's where industry is, and where that makes that so powerful is that just like I talked about role playing for an agent, your entire company, as far as how you train people, the very first part would be you're just going to put them with your virtual trainer. they're going to talk with that trainer who is going to take that entire database and it's going to train those people, and not only train them but test them, find out whether it, and it was cheap because you didn't pay it a salary, right? You built it and now it's there. So that's where we're headed. And colleges, for the most part, I I quite I see one day, not that far, that far off, having a an AI college certificate. I want to get a liberal arts degree. I want to get an English degree. What all those things? They went to the AI college. They just sat there and asked AI, and AI told them, taught them everything, quizzed them on everything, tested them on everything, and then said, "Okay, you're ready to go." It's when we got the physical part that you've got to do, like medical. I need to teach you how to do brain surgery or heart surgery or whatever. You're going to have to go and physically do that. But a lot of the learning getting to that point could all be done via AI, and you don't rack up 50, 60, $100,000
Yeah,
of
more.
debt in school, right? I don't know if have you ever gotten on your phone like ChatGPT. Like I'll be driving along and I got something I want to talk about, and I'll just hit ChatGPT and start talking to it, and we'll just carry on the conversation.
Oh yeah.
It is, I mean, shoot, I could have a 12-hour drive and talk the whole
Hey,
way.
that's how I learned to speak the Dominican dialect of Spanish, living in the
Oh,
Dominican Republic.
oh, really?
My
Okay.
my Spanish was coming from living in Texas and
Okay.
just kind of learning very formalized Spanish, but then I wanted to learn how to speak the local dialect and local slang. I
Right.
could not believe that it sounded Dominican, the Chat GPT, but I was like, "How is this even possible?" Because I was thinking it through in my head. I was like, "They can't have a dialect coach, like, for every local dialect of every language that exists." So how it almost made me think, well, what other, not obscure, but what other niche language models could I plug in here and learn?
Well, I'm sure you could do a lot of them because, I'd imagine that language-wise, that is something that's in there. In fact, actually, that's a good idea. I should have ChatGPT start teaching me Spanish so that I can speak that. But you bring up a great point in the fact that Spanish versus Texas style, dialect versus Dominican Republic dialect is exactly what I was talking about from an example standpoint in how we talk and think people-wise and how we need to move that into speaking with an AI is because there is a dialect
Difference.
we've got to talk with the AI part. But yeah, but as you can tell, I love AI. It's one of those things that I find extremely challenging. Not just challenging, but it is challenging, but fulfilling and gratifying to learn the technology part on the back end on how to make that operate. Because it's not just using it. There's two parts of it. There's using it, and then there's building it. And I love the building part as well. And that's
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'll spill it that I'm 66 years old and that I'm still very much in tune with learning and putting things together when most people my age probably are like, why are you bothering to learn that technology?
Hey, that's what keeps us going here.
It is.
And there's so much about AI which I think is beneficial to folks who may not think, well, what do I need this? I'm not looking up, obscure data and facts, but something as simple as like creating a budget. Hey, this is how I normally do this. I have to do a whole Excel spreadsheet. I'm going with this. I'm making these changes. Your AI could basically learn your budget, and then you could talk to it. You don't even have to write to it. Hey, my electric bill went up this month. I think it's going to go up next month too. So let's have this going. It's just going to spit you out something like that. And
Right.
most people probably aren't thinking about, hey, this is how I can use it for me. They might be thinking of like, hey, what's the process for filling out a Texas real estate contract? That may be more in depth, but it doesn't have
Right.
to be.
No, but all of that is all there. So well, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. So let's talk about a couple other little pieces about that. So if I'm asking it, so let's say I see something on Facebook, right? And I'm like, I'm interested in it. It looks, but I don't really trust their link. I don't know who this person is. What are they talking about? So you can take what they asked and you can ask, ChatGPT. For instance, there's an accounting guy talking about the Rob's method. And I said, okay, so this Rob's method. So I asked ChatGPT, hey, listen, on Facebook, here was the link that they gave me. I want to know, what is this Rob's method? Is there, any validity to it? Have you found any reports of scam or success for people? Give me the whole detail on it. And it came out and told me. And I was like, oh, very interesting. So I didn't need to pay his money to figure out how that
What
worked.
was going on?
Yeah, what
Yeah.
was going on. And the Rob's method, by the way, you should look up. That's from what gaining wealth. That's a really good. I was kind of blown away, quite honestly, by it. I was like,
Looking at it.
holy,
Yeah.
holy crap. But also it is when you go to ask ChatGPT something or you want to create something, common thing. This is a common thing, and it doesn't have to be just realtors, but pretty much anybody that needs to do a bio. They always go, well, I can't write about myself. Okay, easy solution. Hey, ChatGPT, I need you to write a bio, and I
Give
want
me
you to
your
use
bio.
this resume and go look at all their public profiles and stuff. And I want you to write a bio about so and so. And they really like Matthew McConaughey, so they kind of like it in a Matthew McConaughey voice. And so, can you write that out? And here's the purpose of the bio. We're presenting this in front of here. You'd be surprised at how well it does. It brings it
Coming
out.
up with it.
Yeah,
Uh,
and of course, and anytime you ask it to write something in a Matthew McConaughey way, it's going to start out with "Hey, hey, hey." So,
yeah. All right. All right. All right.
yeah.
Dimitri, we are coming up on time
Okay.
here though. Where can folks go if they're interested in reaching out to you? Maybe they have a deal they'd like you to look at. Maybe
Yeah.
they'd like to chat about AI. How can folks get in touch with you or your team?
Well, I have loved AI, and I always saw it on the horizon. So many years ago, I went and got the domain airealtor.com. So if they just go to airealtor.com, they will find me.
Dimitri, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.